Imagine hearing the man who murdered your mother say he'd tell you where her body is, but only if you promised not to stop his execution. That's not a scene from a twisted thriller. That's what actually happened in Mississippi. One man's brutal crimes shocked the nation. But before he took his last breath, he hinted at another horrifying secret. And the clock was ticking. If you believe monsters deserve justice and families deserve closure, hit that like button. Subscribe to hear true stories that leave you breathless, and stay with us. Because what David Cox did, and what he might have hidden, will leave you speechless. David Neal Cox wasn't a name that meant anything to most people in Mississippi. Not until May 14, 2010. Shannon, Mississippi, is the kind of quiet town where tragedy echoes louder. It was there, in a modest house on a quiet street, that David Cox committed one of the most grotesque crimes in the state's recent history. Kim Cox, his estranged wife, had finally broken free from the years of torment, manipulation, and hidden bruises. She had filed charges against him for sexually abusing her daughter, his stepdaughter. David was arrested. And for a brief moment, Kim could breathe again. But evil doesn't vanish when the door closes behind a jail cell. Behind bars, David festered. He spoke often and openly of what he would do when he got out. Other inmates later testified. He said he'd kill her. Said she ruined his life. Said he wanted her to suffer. He wasn't hiding his intent. He was nurturing it. And when he was released, he wasted no time. On a warm spring night in May, David Cox arrived at Kim's house with a gun. Inside were Kim, their 8-year-old son, and Kim's daughter, the stepdaughter he had previously abused. He forced his way in. For the next several hours, Cox held his family hostage. Neighbors heard screaming. Police negotiators pleaded with him. They tried everything. They even begged. And that's when David Cox said the words that would haunt the state forever. "Since you're so interested in her, I want you to hear her beg before she dies." Then he shot Kim Cox twice. But he didn't stop there. With Kim bleeding out, still alive, David Cox sexually assaulted her daughter, multiple times, in front of her. Her mother, dying, watching. To understand how we got here, you need to understand the man behind the mask. David Cox wasn't a monster in the way movies portray them. He wasn't snarling or shouting. He smiled. He shook hands. He looked like anyone you'd pass in a small-town grocery store. And maybe that's what makes people like him so dangerous. By the time he killed Kim, he had already been accused of raping his stepdaughter. He had already threatened to kill. He had already told people, in his own words, what he would do. He meant it. After his arrest for the murders and assaults, Cox pled guilty to all charges. No trial. No defense. Just one request: execute me. He wrote to the Mississippi Supreme Court in 2018. "I am worthy of death. I do not wish to challenge my sentence." He fired his attorneys. He waived every right to appeal. The state didn't argue. For the first time in nearly a decade, Mississippi scheduled a lethal injection. Cox would be the first to die since 2012. And as the date approached, another family watched from the shadows. Felicia Cox vanished in 2007. It was a sticky July afternoon in Pontotoc County, Mississippi. Felicia had planned to run a few errands. She was seen last in the Piney Grove area. Then nothing. No calls. No messages. No body. Her Chevy Blazer was found abandoned on Waldo Road. Inside were her purse and her medications, pills she never left behind. The driver's door was locked. The keys were gone. But the feeling was instant. Something had gone horribly wrong. Her daughter, Amber Miskelly, was just a teenager. She remembers the fear, the endless days, the false leads, the dead ends. But mostly, she remembers the last person known to have seen her mother alive, David Cox. That name. It had haunted her for 14 years. And now, with his execution looming, Amber saw a chance. A final, terrible chance. Could he tell her what happened? Did he know? David Cox knew people were watching. And for reasons no one quite understands, he let a clue slip. He told authorities, "I'll tell you where Felicia is, but you need to promise something. You must promise not to delay my execution." It was a chilling ultimatum. He would help the family of the woman he may have murdered, but only if he could still die when he wanted. Amber Miskelly was stunned. I have thought he may have killed Felicia, or at least knows what happened and where her body is for sure. She hoped, even begged, that the prison system would act, that they would push, interview, press, that they would get it out of him before it was too late. Because once he was dead, so were the answers. The clock ran out. On November 17, 2021, David Cox was executed by lethal injection. He had no last words, no apology, no confession. He simply stared at the ceiling and went still. But just before that day came, in a moment few expected, he did say something. Behind closed doors, Cox told investigators what happened to Felicia Cox. He gave them a map, a location, a shallow grave. Weeks after his death, the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation confirmed. Human remains were recovered in Pontotoc County. DNA would confirm it. 14 years after she vanished, Felicia Cox had been found. We often talk about justice like it's a sword. Swift, clear, righteous. But in stories like this, justice feels like a sigh. Relief, not celebration. David Cox may be gone, but the lives he shattered remain in pieces. His children, Kim's daughter, Amber Miskelly, they live with what he did. They carry the silence he left behind. But sometimes closure comes in the smallest of ways. A map, a shallow grave, a daughter finally saying goodbye to her mother. Some monsters look ordinary. Some crimes go unseen. And sometimes justice comes not with a bang, but a quiet answer in the dirt. If there's a lesson here, it's this: evil hides in plain sight. But the truth, it has a way of clawing its way back. If this story shook you, give it a like and share your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done if you were in Amber's shoes? Subscribe for more true stories of justice, horror, and the raw strength of those left behind. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and never stop searching for the truth.